Welcome to the Tipping Point Show. I'm Jimmy Evans, and I have joining me again today Pastor Billy Crone. And we're going to be talking again today on this program about his book and his documentary, Klaus Schwab, the World Economic Forum, and the Coming Mark of the Beast. This is a fascinating topic that we're talking about today, and I want you to stay tuned. Before we go to that interview, let me just say we have our conference coming up on September the 16th at Fellowship Church. Grapevine, Texas is a part of the Metroplex here. It's 5 minutes from the DFW airport if you're flying in. We would love to have you join us at our conference this year. Pastor Billy Crone is going to be speaking there, as well as Pastor Ed Young, who is the pastor of Fellowship Church. Dr. Tony Evans, a Bible scholar and an end-time scholar, will be joining us this year. Dr. Mark Hitchcock, Rabbi Jonathan Kahn, myself will all be there, and it's going to be a tremendous day of learning about Bible prophecy, being encouraged in the Lord, learning about all the things that God is doing in these times with some very gifted speakers and pastors. And so we want you to be a part of that. Go to endtimes.com, sign up for this year's conference. We have reserved seating. So you can go on there, you can specifically reserve your seat or seats regarding how many, depending on how many people that you're bringing. If you're a paid subscriber to endtimes.com, you get a 50% discount. So it's a wonderful thing. We also have streaming. And so if you want to stream in at home or at your church, that's also available on there. And as a paid subscriber, you get a 50% discount. Now, remember now, when you sign up, be sure when you come to the conference, you use the email address that is associated with your endtimes.com subscription. We would love to have you be a part of this year's conference. It's going to be powerful. So go to endtimes.com and sign up right now. Pastor Billy Crone is a regular guest here on the Tipping Point Show. He is the senior pastor of the Sunrise Bible Church in Las Vegas, Nevada. In addition to being a pastor, he's also a gifted author, conference speaker, and teacher. He's written many books on the end times, produced many documentaries, and today we're going to be talking about his new book, Klaus Schwab, the World Economic Forum, and the Coming Mark of the Beast. Billy, thank you for joining me again.
Thank you, Pastor Jimmy. Great to be here.
You're just fascinating on the last program. If you didn't see the last program, you need to listen to it because it was absolutely fascinating. So this is a book and a documentary. And so if people are interested, which you should be interested, because this is what's happening in the world right now, and this is setting up the mark of the beast.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm convinced, absolutely.
Yeah. So one of the things that is setting up the mark of the beast is what's happening economically in America and in the world. Talk about that.
Yeah, well, again, back to Revelation 13, that's the proof text, right? It's not a conspiracy theory, but God warned nearly 2,000 years ago there's going to come a time when two people, false prophet and the Antichrist, the beast, are going to take control of the planet, including economically, to where the point is where they would be able to control the buying and selling on the planet. And it'll be tied in biometrically, is the modern vernacular for that, with a marks in the right hand specifically or in the forehead. So if that's going to happen, then you have to basically have the ability to control the economies around the world, right? That was written 2,000 years ago. Well, guess what? That's been in place for a long time.
Right.
We already have a global bank. We already have a global lending institution, the International Monetary Fund. We already have a global, if you will, strong arm to punish people who don't obey these global economic rules and things of that nature. So the infrastructure has been there, and that punishers the World Trade Organization.
Right.
And so, but then, okay, well, then Revelation 13 says you're going to make buying and selling with basically your body parts. Well, obviously that to me would imply a cashless society, because what are you going to do? Take $20 to your right hand, and, or put it all on your forehead? And no. So obviously it's some sort of electronic marking system. That's common sense. And that's been in place for a long time, a cashless society. In fact, for the first time in history, we're now seeing whole countries go cashless. One of the far reaches, they're not the only one, but one of the farthest ones is Sweden. Sweden right now is 99% cashless.
Right.
And they just completely get rid of it. And then Sweden is already taking the next step. Then they're having microchip parties. So they're used to doing cashless.
Yes.
But they're already going to the next step, and they're big on the microchips, because now I can just wave my hand. I got used to doing it cashless in my hand with a chip and a card. For years I've been used to, forget that, I'll just use the chip in my phone. Now they're skipping it and doing the chip, and now I can do it with my hand. So it's like a frog in a pot. Warm this up to it. The Bible's the only book on the planet that tells us where it's headed. So, but then again, well, wait a second. So they had their version of that. So at some point, you're going to have to unify. They've already got the infrastructure. We're already seeing people line up all over the world, whole countries even, to go cashless. But how are you going to unify it? Well, that's what's being done as we speak. The Klaus Schwab and the gang, they're what they call the fourth industrial revolution that they're building, which really should be called the Fourth Reich. They also call it the Great Reset. And that reset, on the one side, is an economic reset. And admittedly, they want to tie all the world's planets, all the world's economies into a cashless society. They want to reset it, the Great Reset, and they will control it all for our supposed good. And that's what they're doing around the planet right now. In every major developed country, what they're pushing for now is a digital currency. Right. And not just a digital currency, but a digital currency that can be completely controlled, not just biometrically, but based on a person's compliance to these guys. Now, believe it or not, China has been a test bed for this for many years. It's called the social credit scoring system that they've had in place for years. And if you look at that, it's not just a digital economy over in China, cashless, but your behavior is monitored. Yes. It's the other half of this thing. You don't get to buy and sell if your behavior doesn't comply with the government. And this has been out there for years, and I think they're working out the bugs on it. And basically, in Asia right now, if you say anything bad about the government, you're in big trouble economically. You can't fly a plane, can't board a train, you can't get a loan. Yeah. And it isn't just you got to listen and do what the government tells you to do, or if you speak out against them. It's what you post on social media. Yeah. It's who you hang out with, because they can see you through the CCTV camera system. And even things like if you jaywalk, or if you let your dog go to the bathroom and you don't clean it up, you get punished economically. That's the power of going to a cashless society.
This is true. This is what's happening in China right now. And I saw, Billy, in one article I read, if you went to the grocery store and bought water versus liquor, if you buy water, you get a plus. If you got a liquor, you get a minus. Yeah. And everything you're saying, they're monitoring everything through the electronic digital currency.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and here's another thing. This is what's creepy. You think that's bad enough? They will reward you over there if you turn in somebody that you saw doing something bad.
Nazi Germany.
Maybe they didn't. It's like, what? Yeah. It's crazy. So you're going like, well, too bad for China. Well, guess what? This is what's going on that people need to realize. It's going all over the world, including here in the United States of America. It's called the CBDC. Of course, they don't call it the social credit scoring system, because people are starting to catch on to what's going on in China. But basically, Klaus Schwab, and it's also on tape that he admits that China is basically a role model, and he admits that they're the next world superpower. So I think they're working with China, and that they're basically the test bed. But they basically want to bring the China model to the whole world. The term that's out there, if you want to check it out, it's called techno-communism. Techno-communism. And basically what's going on in China, they want to bring to the planet, right? And you think, well, that'll never happen here. Well, it's already happening. Go back to what we talked about in our last interview. Who's Klaus Schwab's favorite disciple on tape? Mr. Biden, right? Biden was brought in to purposely destroy the American economy. And you're going like, well, why would he do that? Because what's Klaus's goal? He wants to reset the global economy. Well, if you're going to reset the global economy, make it cashless to control the whole thing, then you got to get rid of the current one. Well, who's the current reserve for the global economy? What does the world economy revolve around? The U.S. dollar.
That's right.
So if you're going to reset it, what do you got to do first? Get rid of the U.S. dollar. That's why Biden was brought in. That's why the very first thing he did when he got in office was what? The very first day, shut the pipelines off. He began to do things to purposely hurt our economy, destroy our economy, and he hasn't stopped yet. And this is a misnomer. I mean, I get it. The guy's, has trouble reading a cue card and he fumbles whatever. But people, they kind of like, oh, he's just making dumb decisions. No. He's not just making dumb decisions. He's making deliberate decisions to deliberately destroy our economy, because he works for Schwab, and you've got to destroy the American economy before you can reset the global economy.
Well, they're trying right now, Billy, on this deal to the debt limit ceiling and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. They're wanting to spend trillions more dollars even after COVID and after all the inflation that we have right now, they're wanting to continue to pump dollars in there. And any reasonable person just says like that, you're destroying the economy.
Right. Well, and guess what? They are. And here's what people need to realize. They're doing it on purpose. Because once you see who they're working for, Schwab, and once you see his end game plan, reset, it all makes sense. And that's why, to use this, one guy had shared an acronym with Biden's name. I think it's very descriptive of what he's really doing. People think, oh, he's just making a dumb decision. No. Biden apparently stands for, he says, bumbling imbecile destroying entire nation. But see, really, that's what he's doing. And again, we talked about this a little bit last time. This isn't a Republican-Democrat issue.
Right.
I'm not here to say whatever, because if anything we learned with the last administration, it goes on both sides of the aisle.
Absolutely.
Drain the swamp.
Absolutely.
So I'm not here to just, you're just being anti-Democrat. No, I'm pro-truth of what's going on in the world. In fact, if you want to go even deeper, and we do in this documentary, Klaus Schwab has been training people, including Biden, for years, and he's planted them for the last 50 years in every major developed country in the world. That's why the world had such a uniform procedure when it comes to the COVID pandemic. That's why the world right now has the same procedure when it goes to a digital currency. Every major developed is doing it because they're working for Schwab. But my point is, we bring out, it's both sides of the aisle.
Yes.
Pastor Jimmy.
Yeah.
Democrats, are trainees of Schwab, but so are the Republicans.
Absolutely.
A lot of them. So I don't want people to get sidetracked. Oh, you're picking on Biden. No, you're missing the point. We need to deal with the facts. And the facts are, this guy's working for Schwab. But here's my point. So he's deliberately destroying the economy because you have to do that to reset it. But here's my point. What about this digital currency? Pastor Jimmy, he already signed, and I encourage people to check it out. An executive order is 14067. And this was last March, over a year ago now, that he signed that and basically paves the way for when the right crisis comes along, we can switch in America to a digital currency so that this will never happen again. It'll guarantee that we're not going to have, whatever crisis it could be. It could be an economic crisis. It could be another pandemic. It could be, Klaus is big on this. He's always talking about a cyber pandemic, whatever, things of that nature. But whatever it is, it'll become an excuse to, see, we're going to switch. But the misnomer is, this has been pre-planned. And this is what the other countries are doing. Now, of course, you can't call it the social credit score system. You can't say, hey, it's basically techno-communism, what China's doing, and it's going to control every aspect of your life. You can't say that. It's too obvious. So the term out there now, what they call this is the coming digital dollar. Some of the terms out there is called Biden bucks. But the other term that people might hear of, it's called CBDC, Central Bank Digital Currency.
Right.
The reason why it's central bank is because everything would be digital, but there will be a central bank, basically a main hub, that will be tied together with every financial institution, and they will literally monitor in real time every single transaction you can think of.
Yeah, and see, right now, so somebody comes to my house and they do some work, and I give them a $100 bill or $200. Well, they may report that to the income tax, they may not.
Right.
That won't be an option in the future. When you have digital, they know exactly where all the money's going. They know exactly what you're spending it on. And so, Billy, just imagine that you have all this money in digital currency and you say, I want to give $2,000 to my church. Or I want to give $2,000 to this pro-life group because, there is in the Justice Department of the United States right now, they have weaponized the FBI, they've weaponized the Justice Department to go after pro-life groups, to go after Christian groups and things like that. Imagine that they had the digital dollar to track all their behavior and all that kind of stuff like that. So it puts the control you have with cash, and many of us use digital currency right now, online banking and things like that. But when you introduce this central bank digital currency, you are giving control at a massive level that's never been there before.
Oh, absolutely. I fully agree. And that's why we're trying to blow the whistle on this, because basically, again, I don't believe I'm using hyperbole, but if we're still alive and still here and the rapture hasn't happened, and if they get this digital currency, even here in America, under Biden, into play, Pastor Jimmy, it's game over.
Yeah.
They will and people say, well, who cares about cash? I already use cash. I hardly ever use cash. And I'm one of those people.
Yeah.
It's very rare for me to use cash. It's not what we're talking about. When it's truly only digital cash as your only option, they'll control every aspect of your life. Let me give you an example. This is what comes with this new digital currency, the Biden bucks, whatever you want to call it. The China model is really all it is. They'll do everything that they're doing in China, but now it'll be here in the United States of America. For instance, you speak out against the government, anything that they don't like, any of their policies, the current administration, whatever, social media, cell phone, texting, whatever, because they monitor it all, you'll be punished. And they'll go like, we'll either freeze your money or, oh, we just took half your money. Don't do it again or we'll take it all. And they go, they can't do that. It's digital now. You can't stop it.
Yeah.
Right? And that's just one thing. Let's say you go to the store and you say, I'm going to buy what I want. No, you won't. Remember, what's one of Klaus's big things that people do? They say, oh, he'll never do that. You will eat less meat. Right? Remember that? People go, oh, yeah, this is Texas. You ain't going to tell me I'm going to eat steak, right? I'm going to eat cow. Right? Not if it goes digital. Yeah. Because they will control, and they already do it, they control all your purchases, and you're only going to be given a monthly allotment. And if you go there, even though there is a steak before you, the transaction will not go through because you already hit your monthly allotment. Oh, yeah. So they'll control your food purchases. They'll control your behavior online, out what they see in public, just like the China model and things of that nature. It gets worse than that. They will create what's called geofencing with your money. And this is all admitted. And geofencing is basically, you sit there like, well, okay, that store won't let me, but I'm going to go over here and, whatever, or try to get this or buy it, or I'll go visit somebody. This is the thing that they're building with what's called 15-minute cities. Right?
Yes.
You will not be able to purchase out of your 15-minute radius of your house. And you're like, well, they can't make me do that. I'll just go do it anyway. Well, fine. Go outside your 15-minute radius, which, by the way, they can tell your location, right, certainly with just even your cell phone. But your money will shut off. Once you make it past that geofence, it will shut off. You can't do anything economically past 15 minutes of your house.
Well, this is true. Right. And I've read articles about this. This is happening in different places around the world right now where they want you to be confined to a specific locality.
Exactly. Right. And that's purposes of control. Right. And basically, an accurate term is what they're building is a digital concentration camp world. Yeah. And it'll control your behavior. And if you want to see where we're headed under the current administration, you just go look what's been going on for years in China, because it's the China model coming over here. But basically, the other thing that they'll do, and this is really concerning, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to save up my money, and I'm getting out of here. No, you won't, because now they have the ability what's called a timestamp. They can put a timestamp on your money. And basically, they could say, oh, we don't like how the economy's going, and we need to inject a lot of money into the economy to keep it going. So we're going to put a 1-month timestamp on all your digital money. And if you don't spend it within a month, it disappears.
Oh, wow.
So they force you to spend it. But it's not just forcing you to spend it. Otherwise, it disappears. But what does that do? It prevents you from ever having a savings. Any kind of a backup plan, anything. It's over, right? And again, this is just the tip of the iceberg of what comes with a digital economy. And this is happening all over the world. China is the digital yuan. Other countries, with the digital, the pound or sterling. And then America's digital dollar, Biden bucks, whatever you want to call it. It's the same program being implanted at the same time. China's further ahead because I believe they were the test bed. Yeah. This is even going on in Ukraine, most people don't realize. Ukraine's being turned into a digital society under Zelensky and things of that nature, who also, by the way, works for Schwab and things of that nature. So you're seeing this happening all at the same time. There's another thing that I don't think that people realize that's happening. So now you got the world going cashless. Now you've got every major developed country into a digital currency program that monitors everything and can be used for purposes of control.
Right.
But for management purposes, how are you gonna work that out? Well, this is what's really crazy. They've already split the planet up into 10 economic regions. And you're going, okay, so each one can kind of govern it, but they all work together. But they got it into, bite-sized pieces, 10, and 10, exactly 10. You're going, so what? Well, here's where Revelation 17 comes in, and this is crazy, Pastor Jimmy. It says there, in the 7-year tribulation, it says there, the 10 horns you saw are 10 kings who have not yet received a kingdom, but who for 1 hour, not literally 1 hour, but for a definite point of time, right, in the Greek there, for 1 hour will receive authority as kings along with the beast, the Antichrist. Listen, they have one purpose and will give their power and authority to the beast. So at one point, according to the Bible, predicted 2,000 years ago, the planet is going to be split up into 10 kingdoms ruled by 10 leaders, and they have one purpose. Once they get that partitioned out, then at one point, they give it all over to this guy called the Antichrist. Good thing we don't see that happening. On top of Revelation 13, the cashless society stuff, that's happening, Pastor Jimmy. In fact, you go back as far as in the late 60s, early 70s, there was a group called the Club of Rome, who also works for, guess who? Klaus Schwab. They, back then, had already, the Club of Rome was an economic forum, economic think tank, and they had split the planet up into 10 regions. Years ago, when I was pastoring in New York, and I went to the European Union website, and I just happened to look at their map of the world. Do you know how many sections they have their map of the world mapped out? 10.
Wow.
Crazier than that? I still have the screenshot to this day. That was one of those things where I thought ahead. It's like, you better get it before they delete it. But a screenshot on the UN's website, and it talked about this new program that this was written in, the article was written in on the UN in 2009, but it talked about something that happened in 2008. I'm not joking. I could share with you the actual screenshot. And it says there that a new program was launched, okay, with 10 rulers in 10 kingdoms around the world back in 2008.
Wow.
Right? And so, again, not 5, not 192. They just happen to be splitting the planet up into 10 chunks, which is, again, on top of Revelation 13. Now you got Revelation 17. It's happening before our very eyes. Now, here's what people need to realize. One of those kingdoms that they admit, and if you look at their map, involves America. And and this has been in play for quite some time, as far as back in the Bush Jr. years. And so it's called the North American Union. And you think, well, that would never happen. Well, they've been working on that for many, many years. And so that's the other trend. Like, have we seen any trend around the planet of countries giving up basically their individual sovereignty and coming together as a union, including economically? That was the big thing with the Euro and the European Union, right? Things of that nature. Well, that was a test bed. That was a trial run. That was just the beginning. If you do the research, this has been going on nonstop ever since then. We got the African Union, we got the Asian Union, we got the South American Union, and all that stuff. But there's also a North American Union that's one of the 10 chunks. You're going, well, that will never happen. Go back to who's in office right now, Biden. Not only that, one of the first things he did when he got to office again was to shut off the pipelines. He began again interjecting with with Trudeau of Canada and the president of Mexico to come together. Now, and this is a long-term plan. There was a 4-year hiatus of this, by the way, when Trump was in office, but Biden's right back at it again immediately when he gets back into office. Okay. Now, in Bush Jr.'s day, combining all 3 countries into one, they called it the SPP, Security Prosperity Partnership. And that's on tape. You can see video clips of him meeting with, then President of Canada and Mexico, and how can we work together? For years, they've already been working on the infrastructure of combining all 3 countries into one, like the European Union, possibly called just that, the North American Union. But they have talked about a proposed new currency called the Amarillo that most people laughed at. They've also been building for years, including here in Texas, by the way, because you're close to the border. It's called the Trans-Texas Corridor, right? And things of that nature. And that was a big, huge project to bring this basically thread all the way from Mexico through all the way up, and Kansas City was going to be one of the hubs, and all the way up into Canada, because you're going to tie them all together. So you have to have the infrastructure. That's that as well. But Biden is meeting, but of course they don't call it SPP because a lot of people started catching on and blowing the whistle, including here in Texas when that Trans-Texas Corridor was going through. So they changed the names. They always change the name, right? Now the new term that they call for these guys meeting together, Biden with Trudeau and the president of Mexico, they don't call it SPP anymore. Here's the new term. There's 2 terms. One, they call it the Three Amigos Summit. Check it out. Or the other one is just simply this, the North American Leaders Summit, NALS. And if you go there, you're going to see, check the dates, right after he got in office, man, he re-engaged again in this talk about how to combine all 3 countries into one. I said all that to get to this. Talk about current topics. This is the other thing that I think people need to know, and they're not getting with the border crisis. The border crisis, because all of us are, dare I say, with common sense, are scratching our head, going like, "Why do you keep doing this? This is crazy. Who would do this on purpose? Because it's obviously being done on purpose." Well, a couple things. One, and most people will get this. They'll say, "Well, they're purposely allowing these people to come across the border because they're using it as a tool to flip states that were once red to blue, because statistically, and it's been proven, that people who come across illegally, that they'll vote for those that allow them to do that, which is simply the Democrat Party." So I do think that's a big part of it. Here's what they're not catching, Pastor Jimmy. It's to flood America as fast as they can with as many non-Americans as you can, right? And the reason why is because what's your ultimate goal? Is to combine. You're thinking, well, America, there ain't no way. Not if America got diluted with a bunch of non-Americans.
Right.
Who's going to put up a fight when because basically what they're going to do is they're going to create a crisis so you can manage the outcome. Right. They're going to create a crisis as the excuse. See, if we just combine now, they've already got the infrastructure, everything in play. If we just combine now officially, like the European Union, it worked out great for them, wink, wink.
Yeah.
America with Canada, Mexico, then we could solve we'll be much stronger as we all could work together as three countries. And so that's what people need to realize. That's also going on. But here's my point. Why do they need to realize that? Because we're one of the 10 chunks that they've already mapped out. So that's their plan, right? And the prophetic significance is it's one of the 10 chunks of the 10 kingdoms that get handed over to the Antichrist for total global control. And dare I say, I'll just add this. I also believe, not saying thus saith the Lord, this is why you really don't find America mentioned in Bible prophecy.
That's right.
Because I think America as we know it, Pastor Jimmy, isn't going to be here.
Yep.
We're going to be swallowed up into one of these 10 economic kingdoms.
Yeah, when you look at the world today, and it's fascinating when you read from Revelation 17 there, the 10 kingdoms. See, the Antichrist, according to Daniel 9, he's going to come from a revived Roman Empire. But the 10 kings don't have to.
Right.
See, the 10 kings can be global. And so when you were talking about the 10, the number 10 always comes up as here's how America will be a part of, if this happens, what you're talking about, which I believe is true, it will be a part of the Antichrist kingdom. Because all the Christians are going to get raptured out. Mm-hmm. And the only ones left behind are then the non-believers at that point. And they're going to be in power. So America, South America, Europe, Asia, Africa, all these different 10 components then come into, for 1 hour, they give their authority over to the Antichrist.
Right.
Yeah. It's absolutely fascinating. So you have a documentary on the book here. Let me give this title again. Klaus Schwab, the World Economic Forum, and the Coming Mark of the Beast. That's the book. The documentary is the same name.
Yeah, exactly.
GetALifeMedia.com.
Yes. That's
your website. Mm-hmm. And so they can go on there, they can get the documentary. Is the documentary, is it a DVD? Is it a...
Yeah, DVD.
DVD. So they can get the DVD there. And I want to encourage you, this is absolutely fascinating. And Billy, in the book, in the book and the documentary, you actually show what they're saying, what the people...
We certainly, every video, which there's a ton of videos, we transcribe for the book. So you'll see it in the book with the verbiage and a lot of pictures as well, showing these guys in action. But that's also the power of the DVDs. You get to see it.
Yeah.
You get to read it.
Yeah.
But when you see this stuff coming out of these guys' mouths, you're going like, who in the world do you guys think you are?
This is not something you're making up. This is what they're actually doing. Yeah, and then you document that, obviously, in your documentary. So we don't set dates. I know you never set dates, but I just feel like I've said for a long time, I don't think we're living in the end times. I think we're living at the end of the end times.
Right.
But it just seems like when you look at Israel, when you look at the state of the world, when you look at everything that's happening, it just seems like we're at the very end.
Oh, yeah.
You believe that?
Oh, absolutely. And that's why an urgency. A lot of people say, man, where do you get the energy? How do you keep cranking out these documentaries and whatever? I said, well, number one, that's God. It's not me.
Yeah.
He gets the glory. Number two, it's what knowing the time that we're in should do for every Christian.
Yes.
It's called urgency.
Yeah.
And it's not out of fear. I'm not doing this out of fear. It's out of faithfulness.
Yeah.
We're truth tellers as Christians.
Yeah.
And it even, the Bible tells we're not only the salt, the light, 2 Thessalonians 2. Most people, for some reason, the Christian community forgets this one. God gives us another label. He calls us the restraining influence.
Right.
It's kateko in the Greek, and it means to withhold the course or progress thereof of what? The appearance of the Antichrist.
Yeah.
We're the fly in the ointment,
Yeah.
right? We're the ones who should be out there saying, hey, here's what these guys are doing. We're not looking for the Antichrist, we're looking for Jesus Christ. But in the meantime, in service to Jesus Christ, we're telling people, here's what's coming to the planet. Here's what's coming to the planet. And here's the point. You better get saved if you're not. If you're not saved, you better get saved. This is not a joke. If you're a Christian, stop getting distracted, right? Start living for Jesus. He's going to find you doing something. Live for him. Finish strong. Get excited. It's coming, right? So finish strong is the whole point. Yeah. If you're not saved, you need to get saved. But that's what we're called to do. The restrain. We restrain against this.
Yes.
We withhold the course. He can't make his appearance because we're still here.
Yeah.
Right? But guess what? It says there, but then when we are, in the English, it says to be taken out. It literally in the Greek there means to rise from the midst. Hello,
wow.
Rapture.
Wow.
So when the rapture happens, then the appearance of the Antichrist can be made. But in the meantime, God tells us what? Get apathetic, hide out in the hills, go build a bug out shelter? No. we restrain against this.
Yeah.
We tell people the truth about what's going on with the rise of the Antichrist kingdom. We're not going to be a part of it, but we see the infrastructure being laid.
Yeah.
And the most important thing is, if you're not saved, you better get saved.
You better get saved. That's exactly right. And so I would encourage you, if you're listening to this right now, exactly what Billy said. This is good news. If you're not a believer in Christ, if you've never made Jesus Christ the Lord of your life, you can open your heart to him right now and just say, Jesus, I open my heart to you. I invite you to come in to be my Lord and Savior. I submit my life to you. I pray you'll forgive me of my sins, give me the gift of eternal life. Just those simple words will change your eternity. When I got saved at 19 years old, I said, Jesus, I'll serve you for the rest of my life and I'll never turn back. And when I said those words, the emptiness and the void I felt inside of me, some of you may be feeling that right now, and you've been trying to fill that with money, with activity, with friends, with sex, with drugs, whatever, but nothing fills that void. Jesus will. 50 years ago, Jesus came into my heart. This is real to me today as it was 50 years ago. And so Jesus is coming. That's what Billy is saying. That's what I'm saying. Jesus is coming, and all the indications from prophecy and Scripture is he's coming very, very soon. And so if you're a believer, we want to be ready. We want to be working in the vineyard when Jesus comes and finds us to be faithful servants. But Jesus is coming soon, and once he comes, exactly what Billy is saying, this is what's setting up. The mark of the beast, the Antichrist kingdom is being set up in the world right now. Again, Billy's book is called Klaus Schwab, The World Economic Forum and the Coming Mark of the Beast. You can get this at getalifemedia.com as well as the documentary. Now, Billy's going to be joining me again on the next program, and we're going to be talking again about this, another dimension of the coming mark of the beast, all this stuff, Klaus Schwab's. So I want you to join me for that. If you're watching on YouTube, and I hope you're a subscriber here on YouTube, also become a subscriber to endtimes.com. You get to see all the full podcast, my full podcast, Tipping Point, every week. Dr. Mark Hitchcock has a podcast that comes out every Thursday, Marking the Times. We have articles, information that come out all week long. We want you to be a part of that. $7 a month, $77 a year. You get all this valuable information. We want you to do that. I want to thank you for joining me today. We'll see you next time right here with Billy Crone on Tipping Point. God bless you.